Hi guys, welcome to the channel Sluggers Blue for your CAT VRC preparation. In today's session, we'll be taking up an RC that was asked in your CAT exam in the year 2020 in the first lot, and I've titled the RC as the Tang Dynasty, 511 words for 5 questions. This is the first part of the session where I'll be taking you through the passage. I'll be just explaining the passage to you in detail here. In the second part of this is where I've discussed the questions pertaining to the passage. If you have not attempted the passage, the link to attempt the passage is available in the description of the video, as well as the link to the second part of the video where I've discussed the questions pertaining to the passage, and the link to join the Telegram channel for Sluggers Blue for CAT VRC preparation is there. Both the links are also available in the description of the video. Okay, so let's start. Okay, now for those of you who might be watching these sessions for the first time, I'll just take you very briefly through the structure of the sessions. See, every single session caters to one RC, okay, and a session is made up of two parts. The first part is where I explain to you the passage in detail, paragraph by paragraph, and the second part is where I take you through the questions, where we discuss the questions. Okay, you are expected to have attempted the passage and read the passage and attempted the questions by yourselves. The link to do the same is available in the description of videos of both the parts. Okay, all right, now 40 such sessions make up a course that is titled as an Anthology of RCs for your reading comprehension preparation for the CAT. All right, so I hope that's clear. Let's start. Okay guys, so see, the way we'll go about understanding the passages, you have your screen visible, right, on your device. Now it is split into two parts. On the left side of the screen you can see the passage. On the right side is a blank space which will be filled by schematic diagrams as we read the passage. I'll be using these schematic diagrams to explain to you in detail every part of the passage, as simple as that. Okay, so yeah, let's start. Okay guys, so paragraph 1. Few realize that the government of China, governing an empire of some 60 million people during the Tang dynasty, 618 to 907, implemented a complex financial system that recognized grain, coins, and textiles as money. Coins did have certain advantages. They were durable, recognizable, and provided a convenient medium of exchange, especially for smaller transactions. However, there were also disadvantages. A continuing shortage of copper meant that government mints could not produce enough coins for the entire empire. To the extent that for most of the dynasty's history, coins constituted only a tenth of the money supply. Okay, one of the main objections to calls for taxes to be paid in coin was that peasant producers who could weave cloth or grow grain, the other two major currencies of the Tang, would not be able to produce coins and therefore would not be able to pay their taxes. So the author in the first paragraph basically starts with conveying the fact that very few people know that during the Tang dynasty, the Chinese government had deployed a complex financial system wherein grains, coins, and textiles used to represent the currencies or denominations of money, right? And then he goes on to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of coins. He notes in advantages, he notes that, well, they are durable, they are recognizable, and they are very convenient for small transactions. But in terms of disadvantages, the raw material that coin is made from, that is copper, was short in supply, and hence the government never had enough of it to mint coins for the whole empire. In fact, so much so that throughout history, only a tenth of the money was constituted by coins, right? So that's the first disadvantage, short supply in terms of the raw material. Second disadvantage with coins was that the peasants, right, the commoners and the peasants who were required to pay taxes to the government, to the kingdom, they had no means to produce. They could not produce coins, right? But like, however, they could produce grains and textiles which they can use to pay taxes, but not coins. And hence that was the second disadvantage so far as coins as a denomination for currency was concerned, right? So that's so finally in the first part of this, the author has introduced the topic and notes what were the three forms of money that were used in the Tang dynasty, and then he lists the advantages and disadvantages of coins, right? As simple as that. Next para. As coins had advantages and disadvantages, so did textiles. If in circulation for a long period of time, they could show signs of wear and tear. Strained, faded, and torn bolts of textiles had less value than a brand new bolt. Furthermore, a full bolt had a particular value. If consumers cut textiles into smaller pieces to buy or sell something worth less than a full bolt, that too greatly lessened the value of the textiles. Unlike coins, textiles could not be used for small transactions. As an official noted, textiles could not be exchanged by the foot and the inch. So guys, in this paragraph, the author has just moved on to from coins, from a discussion of coins, and this he has moved on to the discussion on textiles, and he talks about the disadvantages of textiles here. The first one being that they are vulnerable to wear and tear, and once they get stained, faded, or torn, they lose the bolt of cloth loses its original value by a drastic quantum. And now, what does this bolt of cloth mean? Bolt of full bolt is basically is just a roll of fabric, okay, as represented by this graphic here. So that's what a full bolt is, which has a kind of a defined length and width, right? So yeah, so it says that if once the bolt of cloth got stained, faded or torn, then it will lose value. That's one disadvantage. Another is that suppose there were to be some, if the people wanted to conduct some small transactions, the value of which would be lesser than one complete full bolt. They did not really have the option of cutting the cloth. Well, they did have the option, but in that case, what will happen is that the value of the actual bolt of cloth will decrease drastically. So it will not be economically viable for them to use uh, to cut parts of fabric from the bolt of cloth and use it for smaller transactions. So right, so that was another disadvantage there. So he is mainly in this paragraph, what he has done is he has listed the disadvantages of textiles, okay, and in the next one he'll probably talk about the advantages. Let's see. Next paragraph, but textiles had some advantages over coins. For a start, textile production was widespread and there were fewer problems with the supply of textiles. For large transactions, textiles weighed less than their equivalent in coins, since a string of coins could weigh as much as 4 kgs. Furthermore, the dimensions of a bolt of silk held remarkably steady from the 3rd to the 10th century, 26 centimeters wide and 12 meters long. The values of different textiles were also more stable than the fluctuating values of coins. So guys, in this paragraph, the author has moved on to discuss the advantages of textiles. In the last paragraph, he talked about the disadvantages. Now he talks about the advantages. The first advantage being that unlike the case of coins, where there was a shortage of raw materials to manufacture coins, in this case, the production of textile is quite widespread, and there is no problem in terms of supply. First advantage. Second advantage, that to represent a large transaction amount, or to represent a large transaction value, the same textile unit, right, would weigh substantially less than the number of, or the lot of coins that will be required to represent the same transaction value or transactional amount, right? So, and hence that's the second advantage. Third, he says that furthermore, the bolt of silk held remarkably steady from 3rd to the 10th century. So the unit also remained more or less steady. You know, it was quite steady. So across a long period of time. So that's another advantage. Finally, he says that so far as the value of a denomination of textile is concerned, even that was way more stable than the fluctuating values of coins, right? So that's the fourth advantage that he talks about. So 4 advantages listed for textile, and yeah, that's about your third paragraph. Next paragraph. The government also required the use of textiles for large transactions. Coins, on the other hand, were better suited for smaller transactions, and possibly, given the costs of transporting coins, for a more local usage. Grain, because it rotted easily, was not used nearly as much as coins and textiles. And but taxpayers were required to pay to pay grain to the government as a share of their annual tax obligations, and official salaries were expressed in weights of the grain. Okay, so guys, in this paragraph, the author basically starts with listing differential usage of textiles and coins. He says that the government also required the use of textiles for large transactions, while the usage of coins was restricted for small transactions, and more importantly, local areas, right? Because of the cost that would be involved in transporting coins, given that they would, for the same amount of value that they had to represent, they would weigh a lot, and hence there would be transportation costs involved, and hence they were subjugated more to local usage, right? So they were restricted to local usage. So he has talked about the two differential situations where they are used, textiles and coins were used. Then he moves on to grains, the third representative of currency in the Tang dynasty, and he says that the main disadvantage of grains were that they rotted very easily, hence so low durability, because of which they were not used as much as the first two denominations, coins and textiles. However, they did have some utility because taxpayers were required to fulfill their annual tax obligations of paying the tax to the government in terms of grains, and also the salaries of officials, they were also expressed in weights of grains, right? So that's what this paragraph has been about. He has listed the utility and disadvantages of grains, mainly after talking about the differential usage of textiles and coins. Okay. So last paragraph. In actuality, our currency system today has some similarities, even as it is changing in front of our eyes. We have cash, coins for small transactions like paying for parking at a meter, and banknotes for other items. Checks and debit or credit cards for other, often larger types of payments. At the same time, we are shifting to electronic banking and making payments online. Some young people never use cash and do not know how to write a check. So with that, he closes the paragraph. See, guys, what he has done in this last para is he has talked about how, or at a conceptual level, the usage of the various denominations like grains, coins, and textiles is actually quite similar to the way to the financial system of denominations that we have today, right? So even for smaller transactions, we use coins and cash, like they used to use coins, and for larger transactions, in our case, we have checks and card and debit cards, etc., while they used to have textiles. So at a conceptual level, there are some similarities that he notes here, and then he finally moves on to say that even that is changing quite quickly, and we have been graduating towards online payments and banking, and so much so that some young people these days never even use cash and do not even know how to write a check, right? So with that, he closes the passage. What he has done here is he has noted the similarities with the present system of currency, mainly, and yeah, that's and has talked about how even that is changing in our case, how we are moving on to online platforms in banking. Okay. The central idea of the passage can be summed up by the following lines. The government of China during the Tang dynasty implemented a complex financial system that involved use of different currencies as per their suitability to transactions, a system that is conceptually similar to that which we currently use. Okay. Okay, guys. So with this, we have come to the end of the session. Now, for those of you who may have not attempted the questions, you can do so by by following the link which is given in the description of the video. And the others who have not seen the other RC videos, who would like to attempt the other RCs from this course and the Anthology of RCs, you can go to the playlist of this course on the YouTube channel, YouTube channel by clicking here. It will lead you to the playlist. And yeah, so that's about the session. And if you like the video, let me know in the comments, and do subscribe to the channel. Douglas Blue for your CAT PRC preparation. Signing off.